Hello, sportsmen. In the next half hour, I'm going to take you fishing. Well, now, actually, a couple of school teachers, Dave Leonard and Rich Moffett, are going to take you fishing on Michigan's largest inland lake, one that some anglers find difficult. But Dave and Rich will show us how to catch Houghton Lake walleye using some really basic techniques. Now, you sit back, ride along with me as Rich and Dave show us how walleye fishing is done by a couple of practical sportsmen.
I work with a very impressionable age of kid, so I have to straight arrow it all the way. And I'll tell you what, my kids are so excited.
Why is Dave Leonard telling me that he has to portray a straight arrow image? Because he's a teacher and football coach in a junior high school in southwestern Lower Michigan, and he knows his kids will be watching this show. He also knows that I have a fishing license that I bought months before this trip, but I left it at home. I asked Rich and Dave if I should fish, and we had quite a discussion. Dave said I shouldn't because not carrying my license is a law violation. We headed to the middle of Houghton Lake to videotape a fishing story where I would not catch a fish. The cameras would be on Rich Moffett and Dave Leonard, who invited me on this trip. So, Dave, I think you did some of the emails to contact me about coming up here.
Yes, I did.
So why? What's so hot about this place?
Well, you know, I think it's an outstanding fishery for just the average everyday fisherman that wants to come out, catch a few walleyes. Now, you're probably not going to catch the big lunkers you do on Saginaw Bay or in some of the big water fisheries, but you're going to catch fish. And for a lot of people that like to catch a few walleye to eat, you know, take a few, maybe bring the kids out, bring your wife and family out. This is an outstanding fishery, as you can see. You're always going to catch a little bit of something. So I thought, hey, you know, why not do a show where people that wanted to do a little walleye fishing with their family and have a chance to see that.
Let's go down, Matt, and see here what Houghton Lake has. These deck boats are really nice for fishing. Not many people use them for fishing boats.
Pull the pail? Oh, there it is, right there.
You lost the fish? Oh, these are the fish here. Oh, okay. You got some perch that aren't huge.
No, they're small ones too.
Oh, hold it. We're coming up with a pumpkin seed here that is really nice. And it looks like there's a smallmouth in here. Well, that's dandy. How long did it take you to get these?
Oh, a couple hours. We probably caught over 100 perch out there, but a lot of little ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm congratulations on all the little fish, but I'm going fishing with Willis now, and we're going to catch a lot bigger. That's
Keep
a
him or
little
let
small.
him go.
Oh, it's up to you. You're the captain.
Let's let him go. See, I told you that's your spot.
That's the spot? So should we be fishing on that side of the weeds?
I don't know, it's just...
But this lake is Michigan's largest inland lake.
Yes.
I mean, it's huge. It doesn't have the kind of structure that other lakes have with drop-offs and all that.
Mm-hmm.
How the heck do you go about fishing it?
Well, you know, you're fishing with a couple of teachers here. And I'm going to use a word that some of the kids out there, and maybe even some adults who've been out there for a while, might not like to hear. Homework. If you're going to fish a lake, or any lake like this, we've heard the pros talk about it, but you have to do your homework first before you come out. There's a readily available map that's out there called Fishing Hotspots. It does a pretty accurate job of depicting where some of the better fishing points of the lake are. Take a look at the map, call some of the local bait shops. If you're fortunate as we are to have some folks that live on the lake, talk to them about where the good spots are, and then just get out and fish it, get out and do it. But I'll tell you, one thing about this lake that we found, it's pretty hard to go wrong if you find some weed beds and you find some decent spots like that. You're going to catch a few walleye.
If you find some weed beds.
Yeah.
What do you mean if? This lake is full of weed beds.
That's correct. And you know, not all weed beds are made the same, though, as we found out today. There's going to be some drop-offs. Now, you're going to look for weed beds adjacent to some deep water. Now, deep water on this lake is, you know, 12 feet, 14 feet of water. Walleye like that type of thing. Depending upon the time of year, too, as I'm sure Rich will tell you, you know, it's seasonal patterns that you're going to be working with. Right now, we're in the middle of a late summer pattern. We're fishing off of weed beds in fairly deep water, 14, 15 feet of water, and we connected with a few. We didn't knock their socks off, but I think we had a pretty good time.
man.
Look at that monster. All right.
Oh, that's a nice one.
That'll work.
Sure.
Well, she's taking drag. Hold on, Ma.
Okay.
Tighten up my drag a little bit.
That'll work.
Thank you.
That'll work.
That'll eat.
That's just
I
15.
think it'll
I'll
just
put it-
make 15, but you know.
Well, we got 7?
7.
7?
Actually 9, we released 2.
Now, how does that stack up as an average day for you guys out here? Is
Down. It's a down day. Yeah, it is. Normally, in a on a good day, we'll take anywhere from 12 to 14 for 3 guys.
that 3 guys fishing 2 rods each?
Correct. Usually.
So what is this 2-rod thing? You guys working 2 rods like crazy. You look like ice fishermen out here.
Well, we're working a pattern, actually, is what we're doing. We're fishing 1 rod actively and another rod with a dead rod system. You'll see we were either dragging a jig and crawler or we're sending out a slip float out there. And you know, it was funny because that's our bread and butter. A lot of times that slip float will be the golden rod. It'll be taking fish left and right during the day, and you'll pick a few off with your Erie Dearies or your jigs or your crawler harnesses. Today was a little bit different, you know, but you never can tell, but you're always going to increase your odds by trying 2 different presentations. And if you notice, we always mix the baits. We didn't go with leeches. We usually leeches, crawlers, or some combination till you find out what they want that day.
Well, these 3 rigs that you have right here, you got, now this is your Erie Deary. Is this an actual Erie Deary?
That is an actual Erie
It
Deary.
is. It's the actual. Okay, and that you just put a crawler or a leech on.
Correct.
Tie right to your line.
Correct.
And it of course, it goes through the water with the hook up.
Correct.
Hopefully grabbing on the fewest number of weeds. It has the spinner, action, and sound, plus that sound thunking on the bottom. And you say this is a real killer here in this lake.
Normally, that is a standard in this lake, and you know, it's the same pattern like they used on Lake Erie in the 70s when it was murky. You throw it out there into the weed beds, you count her down 6, 7, or 8, and you just start feeling and pulling her through. Get that blade spinning, nice easy reel ratio, and then all of a sudden, whenever it stops, be it weed or be it fish, set the hook. And normally, that does the trick. Once again, today, you know, could have been that we had the early storms this morning, but that pattern wasn't working. So we had to switch to more of a finesse pattern.
Something along the lines of this. I mean, this is a small jig. I mean, they use huge jigs on the Detroit River compared to this.
Right.
And you probably use huge jigs in a lot of your other fishing compared to this.
Yeah, actually, that's pretty much standard for us. 16th ounce to an 1/8 ounce jig maybe, depending upon what kind of a push we're getting. Now, we had 6-mile-an-hour winds today, so we really weren't zipping across the lake. The idea is you want to get something down there that'll make bottom contact but still sort of fish through those weeds. You know, you can do a lot of popping. And one mistake a lot of guys make is they try to yank that whole thing out as soon as they contact a weed. Now, I caught a couple here today just popping it off the weed, and as it's coming back down, pow! You know, he came right up and socked it.
Get it on the crawler?
Yeah, another one on the
Oh,
crawler.
nice walleye. Nice walleye. Whoa.
Down, which one down?
Keep it down.
Go on the spitter.
Okay.
Get that net over there. Taking him clean, good job.
Okay.
Good job.
There it is.
Nice fish.
Yep, that's almost carbon copy of the last one.
Whacking them and stacking them, to coin a phrase.
So that's what we use. Funny thing, even with the Erie Dearies, is now they're harder to find, but 1/4 ounce, a little bit lighter seems to be a little bit better. It's probably the drop rate that they like, something a little bit slower, but that's what's been effective for us.
And you drift primarily.
Primarily we drift, that's correct. Sometimes we'll put the electric down and we will we'll move around and try to stay in one spot, but we've never anchored on the lake. Usually it's a drift bite, you know, you find them and fish through them.
And you're looking for the deeper holes. I mean, I noticed we started this morning off one of the sunken islands out here where you can see the weeds right on top of the water. We're out in almost the middle of the lake. There's 1.5 to 2 feet of water.
Right.
And we started in that.
Right. Right. We started, that's once again where you do your homework. You know, you're going to consult your maps. You're going to take into account wind direction like we did this morning. We had east-southeast, and it became a pretty strong south wind. And we tried to fish the side of the hump that the wind was blowing into, because that's where the walleyes are going to be congregating and feeding on whatever bait is being blown in that direction. Now, I've read, and I'm not sold on the idea yet, that walleyes always face into the wind. They always turn their noses into the wind. It would make sense only if the structure is there for the walleye to have something to feed on, because they're like any other creature, they're going to ambush feed.
Yeah, well, obviously they're not facing the wind. The wind is pushing the water, and they're facing into the current.
Correct.
In other words.
Correct.
Okay, well, what about this crawler harness here? We didn't use too much of the crawler harness deal today.
Now, we fish those in a little bit of a unique way. I think most people will tie those on to bottom bouncers and slow troll. We do that occasionally here. Now, we told
Bottom bouncers?
Yes, we do.
With these weeds?
Yes. Now, remember we told you there's 2 sandsucker holes here. They're about 20 feet deep. If you get a cold front that moves in and they really get lethargic, sometimes you can scrape a few out by taking that bottom bouncer and going through those deep holes, because they'll go belly to the bottom occasionally. But what we normally do with those is use a couple of split shot and just keep enough weight to tick that spinner over the top of the weeds, and you'll catch a few walleye that way too. Rich popped a few that way this morning.
So you know there's places
on
in
the
the
drag?
state you can catch.
You got a nice fish. You got a nice fish.
Pikey.
You got a nice fish. He's staying down like a big northern. I haven't seen him yet. No, yeah, he's an eye. He's a good eye.
Wow.
Easy dozer. Yeah, he's a good eye. Good walleye. Get her up there a little bit. Don't horse him off, because you got him just in the corner of the mouth. Get him to me.
Get him?
Oh, nice job,
Didn't get
Coach.
Get him up here, bud. Head first. Bring him up. Got him. That's a nice eye.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
That's a nice walleye.
All right. Good job, Chief.
That's a
Good
nice
job.
walleye.
So you know there are places in the state that you can catch bigger walleye. I mean, like you said, Saginaw Bay, and
Sure.
geez, there's a number of rivers, and Detroit River. You can, pop 6-pounders, 8-pounders. But you like to come back here.
Correct. Well, we like to consume. We like to eat a little bit of fish. And those 15, 16 inches are just perfect for consuming. Now, if you want to go for a trophy, that's great. And we'll go fish. We fished some of those waters before and tried. And like everybody else, we got that dream of putting the big one on the wall. And hopefully someday we will. But really what we want to focus in is a practical aspect. And that is day in, day out enjoyment of catching a few fish, having some good company, being able to take your family out and enjoy a day. And that's what this is all about.
Well, except that we're not here with our families.
Unfortunately, that's true.
Well, now, unfortunately, what a mob that would be in this boat. We'd all be at each other's necks. I mean, that is not practical to do.
No, we'd have to bring out the armada. And we've done that on occasion. As a matter of fact, some of our fondest memories, good times that we shared as families have been under those circumstances where we have 4 or 5 boats out, family and friends, and just having a real nice time catching a few fish and giving each other the business.
That's a perch right there.
The school of perch.
This is just a monster perch, I can tell.
Who gives who the business? Even Matt Radzalowski jumps in from behind the camera to stick the fork in Rich for his magnificent perch.
Hold it up, Rich.
You like that?
If that wasn't enough, Dave gave Rich a little knock on the noggin.
Tell you what, I didn't set the hook very well.
Thanks, Dave.
There we go. That's it.
I sure needed
I
that.
didn't set the hook very well.
Well, that wasn't on purpose, of course, but Rich Moffat is used to getting the business and giving the business. That's part of the fun of fishing and why we enjoy it so much. Much.
Bring him in.
Set her very well.
There we go.
See ya?
Want me to set him there for a second, Matt?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Oh, I'm just kidding. That's my seat.
Sorry about that, bud.
Right by
Rich
the-
Moffat and Dave Leonard know what the fun of fishing is all about, and it's not just filling the live well full of fish to eat later. Now, that's important, and it's practical. But there's another form of practical that I appreciate. We know it as the practical joke. What is this all about?
Fred, this is a boat fender.
Boat fender, right there. You hang alongside the boat to...
You betcha. That was given to us as a gift, and it's kind of become a fixture in our boat. We've had times where we've caught fish and somebody will move, within feet of us. And so what we'll do at times is, we'll veer off maybe 50 yards to the right, and we'll throw like a lure, like a Beano that has, put some action on your rod. And we'll bring it up and throw this into the net and scoop it up, and we'll hold it up to the people. So I think we caught a whopper. Then next thing you know, they're over there where we want them, then we're back on our hot spot. And we've done this a number of times.
Oh my, that's very realistic looking, especially from a distance. Hold it up like that. That's pretty cool. And you don't think that's a rotten trick to play on other fishermen, huh?
Oh yeah, it is. And we enjoy it.
Last week, I told you about this fishing trip we just took. I had left my fishing license at home 130 miles away. Well, I posed the question to you on our website, should I just go for a boat ride or should I go ahead and fish, figuring the DNR officer could check his computer and verify that I did buy a fishing license? What did you viewers say? Well, it was a split decision. 40% said I should not fish because it was technically breaking the law. 60% said, go ahead and fish because I had bought a license. Now, several viewers pointed out that they know people who did not have fishing licenses, who were not fishing, but who were ticketed for being in a boat while other people fished. In 2 weeks, Sal Ghani will be here to comment on that. You can read all of the comments. Big weekend this weekend for fishermen. We have the walleye and pike opener in the Lower Peninsula. We also have statewide the stream trout opener. Make sure you have your 1999 license with you. Now, you can also try for perch down here off South Haven. Captain Nichols is reporting limits 8 to 10 inches, and the pier is just starting, so they're coming in a little closer. Call ahead for reservations. Ossaugatuck, just a few brown trout along the beach, but steelhead have been outstanding. Over here in the Trenton Lighthouse says the Detroit River is clearing up because we had murky water last week. Same thing up here in Lake St. Clair, and they're getting some limits with the cleaner water. So things are getting better there. Up at Lexington, Port Sanilac, Roland at Nat says that they're getting Chinook salmon limits. Walleye is improving, coho and steelhead, although no reports right here on smelt. Linwood says the smelt, they're getting up in Tawas and Au Gray, according to Frank's Great Outdoors. The steelhead are good on the East Branch and the Au Gray rivers, and they're looking at the Saginaw River to be a good walleye opener. Over here at Just Fishin', Ludington, browns have been slow. Steelhead limits at the Pere Marquette. Smelt have been good off the pier on Monday night, so that's a good sign. By the way, Baldwin Bait and Tackle up in this area says the fly hatches, there are fly hatches out there for fly fishermen, black stoneflies, blue-winged olives, a few dark Hendricksons. The best bet this weekend for fly fishermen is nymphs and streamers. Good stream conditions, low, clear, 42 degrees is that water temperature. Cadillac, Steve says that between Cadillac and Mitchell here, the canal on both sides is where they're looking for the best pike and walleye opener this weekend. Panfish have been hot and cold. Brown trout, steelhead have been slow in the Traverse area. Bluegills are moving into the shallows, though. Up here in Little Bay de Noc, Escanaba, Gladstone, they're getting some perch, some nice sized ones up to 12 inches, and some limits of steelhead. West end of the UP, been some limits of coho, browns, and rainbows. The smelt have been hit or miss. The smelt fishing has been better up in the Keweenaw, according to Paul at Dick's Favorite Sports. Little Huron, Ravine, and Silver Rivers. The peak is over for the steelhead in that area, but they are getting limits in the Carp River in the Marquette area, looking for a good trout opener. Muskong Bay, getting some pretty fair smelt dipping up there, although at Drummond Island, not too far away, they figure that maybe the smelt run is over. Good perch fishing, though. Indian River, some limits of steelhead, smelt on the Sheboygan River during the day. Rockport, some brown trout limits in Thunder Bay. Down here at Oscoda, steelhead are on the beds. They've been getting some walleye at the river mouth, the Ausable. Smelt have been slow, but they were good right up to before the cold front. And turkey hunting, well, they did get a 19.5 pounder. That was the biggest one reported in that area. Our own Bill Yoder dropped by the museum here yesterday, and look what he got. The pickup truck I'm leaning against right here is a Big Mama that's called a dually. 4 tires across the back. It has a crew cab. It's a 1-ton. Normally, Bill Yoder uses this truck to take his deer. I was going to say pet or tame deer. Well, they're wild deer, but he has them toned down. He takes them around the state to shows. In fact, he's going to be at the outdoor fair again this year with his wild deer show. Might even have an elk there. We don't know. What do you think, Bill?
I think so.
Think so, but that's not the story right now. The story is the man with his North American big game shows got quite a turkey.
A different turkey, a real unique turkey.
So what's so unique about it?
Well, for one thing, he has 3 beards.
Huh.
3 different beards come out of his neck there, his chest.
Okay, we got one here, this longest
Long one
one.
is 11 and a half.
Wow.
And then these other 2 add up, so it's 23 inches total.
Now, hold it. Let me, I guess it is. They do come
Yeah,
from
they
3
each got different.
separate bases in
Yep.
there, and they're together.
Yep.
Has anybody ever told you what this stuff is?
Well, I don't know, but I guess it's just like whiskers. I don't know.
Boy, it is really thick. It's kind of pretty. It's greenish, but these are the beards that the tom turkeys grow, and it's judged in this state the size of the beard, sort of like the size of the antlers.
Is the trophies
Is the
along with
trophy.
beard. Right.
I mean, I don't know why they don't measure the tails
Right.
or the width of the tails.
Is pretty. Then they add the committee bucks, add up the spur length, and the 3 beards or 1 beard, whatever you have. And this one comes up with 25 and 2/16 total.
Now you get credit for all of those beards, like end on
Right.
end, like one
Yep.
huge beard.
Yep.
Well, that isn't fair.
Well, they have a different category. It's a non-typical category
Ah,
compared
I
to the
see.
typical.
So they measure these spurs. How?
Each
how
one
do
of these was 1 inch and 1/16.
And how old would that make this
Well, they
bird?
figure he's around 4 or 5 years old.
And they use these for fighting, I suppose.
Yep, fighting, and they're real sharp.
Okay, well you're a big game specialist with trophy deer and all that. Why don't they measure the toenails? I
Well,
mean, come on.
They figure these probably get wore down, which they do, and these don't so much.
I'd measure the toenails. I think we should have a new
we
system
could,
here.
We could put that on there and make me more scoreable points.
yeah, the length of the toes,
Yeah.
the girth around the legs.
Yeah.
There's a lot more measurements we can take.
That's
on
right.
this.
That's right. There's
But
and he weighed 20 pounds exactly on a certified scale.
Huh.
2 different scales. So I thought he was a little heavier than that. When you carry him a half mile, he feels like he weighed 40 pounds.
Are you going to have this mounted?
Yep, life-size mount because of the 3 beards.
When will it be done? In other words, will it be at the fair this year?
No, not this year. Next year.
You don't have a taxidermist that can move it
Well,
along?
I don't know. We're going to work on that.
Well, I could talk to Tim Hayes and
Well, let's see what we can do. Yeah.
speed it up a little bit. Yeah, well, that's a beautiful bird.
It's a nice mature bird, and he's really different because of the multi-beards. It's like shooting a big non-typical buck or a real big typical. There are not that many of them.
Wow, well, that's something else. Yoder's Wild Game Big North American Game Shows.
And this bird was not raised on my place either.
Don't even start the rumors. Well, Bill, congratulations
Thank you
on
very
that.
much.
Look
Thank
forward to seeing you at the fair this year. Boy, that's pretty in the sun, isn't it?
They're beautiful.
Look at those feathers.
They are a beautiful bird. They say they're ugly, but they're more than ugly. They're beyond that.
What do you mean beyond that?
They're beautiful ugly. That's why my wife married me, because I was beautiful ugly.
See. Next week, I'll be here with a feature on bow fishing for buffalo. Now, that's a fish, by the way, but I'll be on vacation the middle of the week, so Matt Radzalowski will bring you his own guide report. Get outdoors whenever you can. It's a great place to be. I'll see you next week. The latest issue of the new RV Camping and Outdoor Digest has been mailed to our Practical Sportsman members, who are also members of our new Recreational Vehicle Owners Organization of Michigan, RVOOM. The new magazine talks about hunting and fishing, as it always has, but the new twist is information about how and why RVs are more practical than ever for today's sportsman. Write to me for a free copy of this new magazine. Also, check out our website at www.rvoom.com if you want to read about the controversial side of today's hunting and fishing issues. Now, I don't put as much controversy on this TV show as I used to, and you won't read as much in our magazine either, but stand back on the website. I pull no punches there. The site also contains tonight's TV transcript, details on the guide report, the opinion survey, and a lot more. Write for a copy of the magazine or order it by emailing us through the website. You'll find things that you won't read anyplace else.
Fred Trost Practical Sportsman is brought to you in part by MARVAC, the Michigan Association of Recreational Vehicles and Campgrounds, a nonprofit trade association representing all segments of the RV and private campground industries in Michigan. By D.L. Kessler & Sons Construction, specializing in residential and commercial construction since 1977, and by the financial support of viewers like you.
And it's not just filling the live well full of fish to eat later. Now, that's important, and it's practical. But there's another form of practical that I appreciate. We know it as the practical joke. What is this all about?
Fred, this is a boat fender.
Boat fender, right there. You hang alongside the boat to...
You betcha. That was given to us as a gift, and it's kind of become a fixture in our boat. You know, we've had times where we've caught fish and somebody will move, you know, within feet of us. And so what we'll do at times is, you know, we'll veer off maybe 50 yards to the right, and we'll throw like a lure, like a beano that has, you know, put some action on your rod. And, you know, we'll bring it up and throw this into the net and scoop it up, and, you know, we'll hold it up to the people. So I think we caught a whopper. Then next thing you know, they're over there where we want them, and then we're back on our hot spot. And we've done this a number of times.
Oh my, that's very realistic looking, especially from a distance. Hold it up like that. That's pretty cool. And you don't think that's a rotten trick to play on other fishermen, huh?
Oh yeah, it is. And we enjoy it.